Let me tell you about the time I bought myself 5 acres of supposed peace and privacy, only to find out my American dream came bundled with a bunch of bored, entitled HOA board members who thought trespassing was a birthright. Yeah, that happened, buckle up. The whole reason I picked that property was because it promised quiet, just untouched meadow, tall pines brushing against the sky on one side, a lazy little creek bubbling along the other. After years dreaming about a workshop where I could tinker and build and finally have room to breathe, I thought I'd struck gold. The first few weekends, I must have looked like a happy idiot, wandering my new kingdom with survey papers in hand, soaking in the view, mapping out where the workshop would sit. Maybe a little fire pit here, a garden over there. It felt right. Felt like home. But here's where the universe likes to mess with you. One lazy afternoon, I was following the boundary on the north edge, just me, the breeze, and some overgrown grass when I saw it. Out past the tree line, smack in the middle of what I knew was my land, was this full-blown wooden pavilion. I'm talking benches, a stone grill, a little storage shed. Heck, they even hung up a sign, HOA members only. I swear, it looked like a scene out of a suburban magazine. Except, apparently, I was the magazine's punchline. At first, I figured I must have screwed up. Misread the plat map, maybe? County lines got moved? Some long-lost shared use agreement? I spent the whole night triple-checking surveyor notes, county GIS maps, title documents, but nope. The survey was crystal clear. Every splinter of that fancy little picnic palace was entirely on my property. Not an inch of doubt. Next morning, coffee in hand and fire in my gut, I marched into the HOA office, documents under my arm, trying to be neighborly, I walk in, and there they are, 3 board members lined up like they're auditioning for a sitcom about why nobody likes HOAs. Their president, Brenda, a woman with a face you could use to press shirts, barely glanced up as I introduced myself. "Hi, I'm a new owner behind the neighborhood," I said, all polite. "There's a pavilion built on my land. I need you to arrange its removal." Brenda's lips barely twitched. "No," she said, flat as roadkill. "That pavilion's been there for years. It's part of our community. It's on my property," I replied, holding out the survey. "I'm giving you notice to remove it." She shoved my papers back. Didn't even read them. "We're not removing anything. The previous owner let us use that land, so it belongs to the HOA by established use." I really tried to keep my cool. That's not how property law works. She narrowed her eyes, acting like I was the problem. "You're new here. Don't start causing trouble. The pavilion stays." That was it. Meeting over. They shooed me out like a lost dog. But here's the thing about me. I didn't spend my life savings to get pushed around by people who think HOA stands for hands on anything. So, the next day, I filed a formal notice. They ignored it. I sent a certified letter. Crickets. A week later, still nothing but smug silence from the palace of beige paint and bad attitudes. Fine. If they wanted to fight, I was done being Mr. Nice Guy. I called in a licensed surveyor for a brand new, official boundary survey, one that could stand up in any court. They came out, flagged every corner, measured twice, stamped every page. The result? That pavilion was 26 feet inside my line. Every nail, every post, mine. I showed up again at the HOA office, thick stack of paperwork in hand, deadlines circled in red. 14 days to clear out, or I'd see them in court. Brenda and her cronies were waiting, arms folded, jaws set like I was wasting their precious time. I slid the documents across the table. "This is your final notice." Brenda actually laughed. "You paid for another survey? You sound ridiculous," she scoffed. One board member just shook his head. The arrogance was thicker than the pine pollen in spring. "We've used that pavilion for over a decade. That gives us established community rights," Brenda sniffed. "Nope," I said, probably sounding calmer than I felt. "Use without permission is trespassing. And your so-called agreement? Never happened." She sneered. "That's your problem, not ours." Then she flashed this smug, cat that ate the canary smile. "Go ahead. Sue us. You won't get anywhere." I just nodded, held my tongue. "I'm giving you 14 days," I repeated, packing up my papers. "I'm being more reasonable than you deserve." She waved me off. "Do what you want." but the pavilion stays. We're done here. Walking out, I realized they didn't believe I'd actually do anything. They thought I was just another rookie they could bulldoze. That was their first mistake. So I documented everything, every ignored letter, every boundary marker, every inch of that illegal structure. When the 2 weeks passed, with no response but silence and smug looks, I knew it was showtime. On day 15, sunrise painted the meadow gold. Dew on the grass, birds just starting up, a perfect morning for a little righteous destruction. My buddy Mar showed up with a bulldozer strapped to his trailer. He'd read every document, seen every map. He climbed out, looked at me, and asked, "You sure about this?" I nodded. They had their chance. Mark just shrugged. He's a man of few words when a bulldozer's involved. I snapped photos from every angle: pavilion, shed, grill, signed boundary stakes. My lawyer's advice was ringing in my ears: document everything. Mark fired up the machine, engine growling like a warning to anyone foolish enough to trespass. He rolled it up slow, nudged one of the posts, almost gentle, then pushed. The whole thing groaned, splintered, and crashed in on itself like a stack of Jenga blocks after a bad move. Benches snapped, the grill tumbled, the shed caved. Everything landed right there, on my dirt, not a single thing outside the line. But the noise, oh, the noise. Within minutes, HOA members started materializing at the edge of the trees, arms waving, voices shrill. One lady shrieked, "What are you doing? That's community property." I yelled back, "Private property. You were warned." And then Brenda stormed over, face red as a stop sign, heels digging into my grass like she was marching off to war. "You can't do this. This is for the whole neighborhood." I kept my voice calm. "Nope. It was trespassing. Now it's gone." She threatened to call the cops. I told her, "Be my guest." I already had every document in a folder, ready for inspection. When the officers arrived, they looked at everything: surveys, notices, timestamps, photos. One of them walked the line twice. Finally, he turned to the HOA crowd and said, "He's within his rights." The structure was on his land. The look on their faces, priceless. Shock, disbelief, some started mumbling to each other. But if you think that's where it ends, you don't know HOAs. No, this was just the intermission. 2 days later, I get a fat envelope in my mailbox, stuffed with threats, accusations, and, get this, an invoice for $38,000 damages to community property. That was their next mistake. I walked the whole pile right to my lawyer. He grinned and said, "They just made this easy. We filed suit, trespassing, unlawful land use, harassment, attempted extortion, property rights violations." And while we were at it, my lawyer added damages for 10 years' worth of illegal use, plus every penny I'd spent on lawyers, surveys, and lost sleep. The evidence? Bulletproof. Every survey, every photo, every ignored letter. In court, Brenda tried her queen of the HOA routine, but under oath she cracked. First, she swore the previous owner had given verbal permission. My lawyer calmly produced a signed affidavit. No such thing. Next, she waved the community rights flag. The judge wasn't having any of it. Then she said I destroyed beloved neighborhood property. My lawyer pulled up the county GIS map, pavilion, shed, all on my land. It was almost embarrassing how quickly the judge shut her down. "This is not your land," the judge said, voice sharp as attack. "You have no rights here. Your refusal to remove the pavilion after multiple notices is a clear violation of property law." Brenda tried to wring out a last drop of sympathy, blaming me for emotional distress to the community. The judge leaned forward, deadpan. "Ma'am, you should be grateful he didn't sue for more." The ruling? The HOA had to pay me $100,000. Another $16,500 in punitive damages. $12,000 for legal fees. $15,000 for unauthorized land use. Brenda's jaw nearly hit the table. Behind her, the board started bickering. Some members even apologized to me on their way out. I heard Brenda resign not long after, and the HOA had to hike everyone's fees to pay the bill. That spot where the pavilion stood, that's where my workshop sits now, solid concrete, high rafters, big rolling doors. Every time I walk past it, I I remember the day a bunch of bullies tried to steal a piece of my life and how standing my ground paid off in every sense of the word. But here's the thing. Was I right to push so hard? Or was there a better way? Some neighborly compromise? I'd love to hear what you think. Drop a comment, tell me your own stories, or let me know where you stand on justice, community, and what it means to truly own your land. Because out here, a little stubbornness goes a long way.